right now. A new video of NBA YoungBoy and his group pulling and jumping an affiliate who attended his gig is becoming viral. Additionally, it appears that Lil Durk responded to the entire scenario while incarcerated. Tensions were building behind the concert lights and the performance, and they finally resulted in a vicious beating that has the entire culture discussing the true direction of this. The startling reality of what transpired in New Jersey is more sinister and well-planned than anyone could have predicted, and we're going to make everything public. From the purported backstage incident that hasn't received much attention yet to the trolling that started it. Hey, how are you, gang? We're going to get into some serious street drama that has been causing a stir in the hip-hop scene. And believe me, this one strikes a different chord because it demonstrates the depth of the NBA against this circumstance. Let me give it to you all straight before we dive into this crazy adventure that took place at the YoungBoy performance in New Jersey. Social media has been overflowing with videos, hypotheses, and other forms of conjecture regarding the actual events. However, we're going to disentangle the truth from fiction, the genuine from the fake, and explain how a concert became a battlefield. For those who haven't been following along, allow me to quickly introduce you to the game. The conflict between NBA 4K Trey, who represents the YoungBoys camp, NF, who represents Lil Durk's gang, did not begin yesterday. There are deep roots to this beef, and it all stems from one fateful evening that permanently altered the game. November 6, 2020. Everything for everyone engaged in this situation altered on that date. When everything went wrong, King Von, one of the most gifted and promising performers to come out of Chicago, was outside an Atlanta hookah lounge telling stories that had the industry and the streets taking notice. There was Wando and his team. Shots rang out and tensions were high. Van failed to show up. Additionally, the hip-hop community still bears the scars from that loss. Now, don't assume that this is simply another rapper feud that is solely focused on social media nonsense. Real repercussions have been mounting on both sides, and the streets and the federal government have been keeping a close eye on things. Van's mentor, brother, and first-day mentor Lil Durk is currently incarcerated for very major federal crimes. We are discussing murder for more serious accusations, conspiracy charges, and everything else. His trial was postponed until January. This is the point at which things become even more terrible and intricate. Federal authorities have claimed that Durk set out a hit on Juan Rondo, the member of the team who killed Van. According to the feds, Durk offered money, used private jets, and otherwise financed and orchestrated this assassination. However, here is the heartbreaking part that demonstrates how these things get out of hand. Quando was not captured by those purportedly dispatched to carry out this hit. They have the wrong individual. Lil Pab. That's the name at the heart of Durk's current incarceration. Quando Rondo's cousin, Lil Pab, was with Quando at the time of the alleged hit in Los Angeles in 2022. Lil Pab was slain as the gunman opened fire on the car. Wando lived, a man without guilt. The feds are describing the death of a family member, someone's son, as a result of a failed murder-for-hire operation. Take a moment to process that. The targeted target was not even reached by the purported retaliation for Van's death. It claimed another life, left another family in mourning, and provided federal prosecutors with all the evidence they required to establish a case against Durk. The feds are claiming that he planned a hit that actually caused a death, just not the one that was purportedly intended, which is why he might spend the rest of his life in jail. Not just for conspiracy. This is where things get very hot, though. Tension between these two factions hasn't decreased in the slightest while Durk is imprisoned, defending his case, and the legal system works to sort out all these purported ties and schemes. Indeed, the events in New Jersey demonstrate that this feud is still very much alive and is showing itself in ways that highlight how unstable the entire situation is. Even though Durk is in jail and the federal government is keeping an eye on everything, the retaliation and violence persist. When does it end? That's the true question that everyone should be asking. More significantly, what will it take for people to see that this cycle of violence and retribution is only going to result in more suffering, more jail cells, and more moms weeping over their sons? Check it out then. For those who are aware, NBA YoungBoy's concerts are always packed, and their performance in New Jersey was scheduled to be no exception. The man has a devoted and active fan base, and the figures reflect that. Excitement was in the air at the venue. People are eager to listen to their favorite music. Take in the enthusiasm that YoungBoy exudes on stage. However, one person in that group made the decision to create a different kind of declaration that evening. When there was a quarrel during a concert, a Lil Durk fan who was truly passionate about demonstrating his loyalty began acting in a way that many people do. He began to trot. In the middle of an NBA YoungBoy performance, he began shouting, "Free Lil Durk, do you sense me? Free D, free you." We are aware that's provocative under the hood. It would be like wearing the wrong colors when entering hostile territory. This fan, however, was either courageous, stupid, or simply too engrossed in the moment to consider the repercussions. He made a lot of noise. He was ensuring that he was heard. Despite being surrounded by YoungBoy supporters, he was demonstrating his allegiance to Durk. The scenario quickly escalated from verbal trolling to physical aggression. So, allow me to explain what happened next. This Durk enthusiast was discovered by 3 members of the NBA 4K Trae Young Boys crew. They could hear him shouting. They made the decision that they would not tolerate him representing F in their premises during their artist show. These concertgoers weren't just anybody. It is known that these people have ties to the 4K Trae camp. Those who take this dispute seriously and who perceive any indication of backing for the opposition as contempt, that requires attention. I don't mean that they strolled up to talk to him. I mean that they approached him. They had a purpose. What transpired when the 3 of them surrounded this Durk fan was captured on camera, shared on social media, and ignited a fresh round of discussion about how serious this problem truly is. In the center of the musical arena, where people were gathered with their phones recording, the 3 of them leaped at him. This man was beaten down. We're talking about the supporter attempting to protect himself, but being totally outnumbered with punches flying. People are yelling and running to clear the area. It was brutal, as the video demonstrates. It was swift, and the message was conveyed clearly. Smirk freely. You are familiar with me. I'm going to say free smirk without giving a "I'm outside." They begin to get it on. Who are they, I wonder? It turns out to be young boys. Why, I wonder? Do you sense me? Thus, we put it on in that manner. Do you sense me? I'm bobbling. I'm weaving. I'm bobbling. Snatching me up. Grabbed my sneaker and looked at my hand. That is a lot of aggressive energy, isn't it? And it demonstrates how the distinctions between music, entertainment, and actual street politics have all become muddled in this F versus NBA feud. This has nothing to do with protecting YoungBoy's reputation as an artist. This was an act of territorial disrespect. A warning that there would be repercussions if you entered their territory as an opposition representative. This is where the narrative goes beyond a fight at a concert, though. You see, what supposedly transpired following this initial beating is something that many people are unaware of or have not discussed enough. Everyone who is aware of the whole scenario was shaken by the actual tea. Several witnesses and sources claim that following the 3 4K Trae members jump off the Durk fan in the main performance area that evening, the situation intensified even more backstage. It was stated that the battered fan was taken to the backstage area or dragged. This is where things start to get serious. Lulu Tim and NBA YoungBoy reportedly present when the following incident occurred. Let's take a moment to discuss Lou Lim, because his participation in this situation is quite important. The person who participated in the shooting that killed King Von was Lou Lim. It was him who opened fire in Atlanta that evening. He won his case. He has been spotted with YoungBoy a lot, and is a free man. Given that he was purportedly present when this backstage incident occurred, that's figuratively and physically giving this already complex feud a new dimension. According to the claim, the beating went on backstage, where the Durk fan was subjected to additional brutality away from the cameras. That captured the first incident and away from the general audience. It's still unknown if Lulim or YoungBoy took part, observed, or was simply there. Although there are conflicting accounts, their purported presence alone adds a great deal of complexity to the scenario from a street politics and possibly legal perspective. A young man who had obviously experienced a horrible situation was depicted in the aftermath. Video and images that eventually made their way into social media. Visible wounds, edema, and the kind of harm caused by being overpowered and outnumbered. The pictures went viral swiftly, with 4KT supporters viewing them as legitimate revenge for disrespect and F supporters using them as proof of the lengths NBA 4KT members will go to. Give it some time to sink in. Because of his devotion to an artist who is currently incarcerated, a person who went to a concert, a venue that is meant to be about music, enjoyment, and appreciating art, was left pummeled and bruised. That's where we are at the moment with this dispute. Security for concerts. They were where? A number of individuals have been asking that question. How can 3 people allegedly jump someone in the middle of a venue and then carry on the attack backstage without security stopping them? The fact is that these high-energy rap performances frequently overwhelm concert security displays, particularly during periods of recognized high tension. They are keeping an eye out for weapons and attempting to regulate the crowd to avoid stampedes. Additionally, when violence breaks out rapidly, particularly when there are several individuals involved who may be connected to the performer, security may not always respond promptly enough, or may be told not to intervene in specific circumstances. Venues that accommodate these well-known musicians are treading carefully. The money from sold-out performances is what they seek. Despite their desire to uphold hip-hop culture, they are aware that conflict might lead to violence. Stricter security measures have begun to be implemented at certain locations. Some have prohibited specific artists in their entirety, while some simply take a chance and hope nothing comes up. The worst part, though, is that this occurrence in New Jersey involves more than just a single concert-goer being jumped. Since King Von's death, this beef has been consumed by a broader pattern of violence and retaliation. There is a reaction to every action. Every aggressive act necessitates a reaction. And there is no end in sight to the cycle, which simply continues going. Let me explain how deeply ingrained street politics are in hip-hop for those of you who may not understand. This is more than just amusement. This goes beyond social media posts and lyrics. These are actual people with actual relationships. 2 street groups that have a history of violence and work in a field that frequently celebrates and makes money off of such violence. In the eyes of many members, Von's death established a debt they believe must be settled. The beef didn't end when Dirk was imprisoned on those federal charges. It heightened the sense that F is being singled out and that they are being attacked from several directions. Conversely, NBA 4KT considers itself to be protecting against aggression. They view Dirk's alleged murder-for-hire scheme as evidence that he deliberately sought to hurt or kill YoungBoy. Every instance of trolling and every Free Dirk chant during a YoungBoy performance are perceived by them as disrespect that must be investigated. They don't see themselves as the aggressors. They are reacting to dangers. This is more than just 2 opposing viewpoints, though. This relates to how conflict is handled in the culture. How successful and wealthy young men who were raised in cultures that legitimize violence still act in certain ways. The general consensus on the streets is that no one truly prevails under these circumstances. Van has left. Dirk might spend the rest of his life behind bars. Both crew members have been shot at, detained, or had to continually watch their backs. Lou Tim's purported presence during this New Jersey incident and its relevance, one cannot exaggerate the incident. This is the man who killed Van. Courts have ruled that it was justifiable in self-defense. Yet the shooter was still close to another violent episode involving the same beef. That can be interpreted as either extremely daring or extremely reckless. It communicates that 4KT is united, that they are not hiding, and that they are actively protecting their artist and their area. This is what worries me, though, and it should worry everyone who is watching this scenario develop. The feds watch every time violence breaks out. RICO charges are a favorite of federal prosecutors. They enjoy making connections between various situations and people in order to create accusations of conspiracy. That type of evidence is purportedly the foundation of Dirk's present case, linking him to numerous violent and retaliatory acts via witness testimony, bank transactions, and phone records. Federal prosecutors can exploit the continued occurrence of incidents and violence in the streets or at concerts to create cases against more persons. They may contend that they are criminal organizations that use music as a front. They are able to confiscate property. They are able to impose lengthy sentences. They have the power to successfully ruin huge corporations in addition to individual careers. One aspect of this problem that doesn't receive enough attention is how venues and concert security manage certain circumstances. So let's talk about that. Big venues in places like Atlanta, Los Angeles, and New York have begun enforcing what they refer to as high-risk artist protocols. Every entry has metal detectors as part of this. More security guards and even off-duty police officers are employed especially for events where beef is known to occur. Here's the issue, though. You can't have security everywhere. In a crowded event, they are unable to keep an eye on every contact. Just by glancing at them, they may not be able to tell which crew member is associated with which. Furthermore, when violence breaks out as swiftly as it did in New Jersey, the harm is already done when security arrives. Some locations have even gone so far as to prohibit specific artists demand that they sign liability releases admitting the possibility of violence. Others use facial recognition software and sophisticated video systems to detect known troublemakers before they even enter the facility. However, venue security can only do so much if people are determined to impose street politics or send a statement. Hip-hop's cycle of revenge has existed since the beginning of the genre. But in recent years, it has become more obvious and lethal. We've witnessed it with Biggie and Tupac, the most well-known instance, which left a civilization traumatized and two legends dead. Local feuds in Chicago, Atlanta, New York, Los Angeles, and every other metropolis have demonstrated this. With a flourishing rap culture, there is a consistent trend. Retaliation is the result of disrespect. Escalation results from retaliation. Violence results from escalation. Additionally, aggression results in imprisonment or death. Instead of improving it, social media has made it worse. Previously, disputes might be confined to the streets or show up as disrecordings. Every remark, slight, and apparent disrespect is now magnified and aired to millions of people, even though reacting could put them at risk legally or physically. Artists feel pressured to do so in order to demonstrate their street cred and show that they are not weak. An excellent illustration of this is the occurrence in New Jersey. The Dirk fan most likely believed that shouting Dirk free was an act of loyalty. Perhaps he believed it to be innocent trolling. Perhaps he didn't consider the practical repercussions. However, given the beef and all of the violence and deaths that had already occurred, that act was seen as an issue that needed to be addressed. This is more than just NBA young boys. Lil Durk, let's face it, this concerns a society that finds it difficult to move past using violence as a means of resolving disputes. This is about young men who, even after they succeed, are unable to break free from the street codes they have absorbed. This is about a business that pretends to make money off of conflict. To be taken aback when that battle becomes fatal? Ultimately, Dirk's case involves more than merely suspected murder for serious federal accusations or complicated situations. It's about what happens when success in the music business and street politics combine. Extreme loyalty is what it's about. It concerns young men who believed that the only proper course of action after witnessing their friends' deaths was retaliation. Years later, the effects of Van's passing are still being felt. If confirmed to be genuine, Dirk's suspected murder for a higher scheme would be a direct reaction to that defeat. Another ripple in the same pond is the incident in New Jersey. Violence is increasing. Violence is increasing.